Well, we got a story up over at Yellowhammer News yesterday that Birmingham City Council voted to hike the minimum wage. Now, we'll talk a little bit later in the program about the significance of that and why I think it's a bad idea and all that kind of thing. But as a part of that, this comes on the heels of the City Council's decision to raise their own salary from $15,000 per year to $50,000 per year. And you and I were having a conversation offline, and there's actually even more to the story to that. So I wanted to get you on here and let you kind of talk to our listeners about that, especially those here in our Birmingham audience.
Thanks, Cliff. On top of the salary, which has just gone from 15 to 50, which will take effect January of 17, they have a $800 a month expense account, which is I'll let you multiply that. That's 9,600 or right at $10,000 expense account. So we're really talking about going from 15 to 60. And another thing that has not been made public, there was a bill delivered to my office in Montgomery during the regular session. It had been advertised like you have to do all local bills 4 consecutive weeks, which would have given the city council men and women an unlimited, and let me stress, unlimited expense account.
My gosh.
And I did not even consider it, it was not considered, but it was delivered to my office. And
now they serve in a part-time capacity, isn't that correct?
They are part-time city council people.
So at a time when we're living in the Obama economy here, and so we're all, wages are down, people struggling to find jobs, and we've got individuals on the Birmingham City Council serving in a part-time capacity, supposedly public servants, who unilaterally raised their pay up to about $60,000 a year, and then we're trying to go even further and have themselves an unlimited expense account, basically be able to tap into taxpayer dollars on an unlimited scale.
This is true, of taxpayer money. So that has not been made public, but I thought you would be the proper one to know about it first. Well, it's been under the radar, okay?
It has, because I had not heard anything about it. And I tell you, Birmingham city politics are so exasperating to me because the whole city's run by liberals, and it is tough to influence them or try to get them to do the right thing. And so sometimes I kind of just throw my hands up in the air. But I got to wonder if this is the kind of thing that is so egregious that even people that would normally be supportive of what they're trying to do are going to look at this and say, we can't stand for this anymore.
Well, I've talked to a lot of members of our delegation, House members and Senate members, some of which are Democrats, and I've talked to them. And they are outraged, just like you and I are, over the pay increase. And when we go back into session, regular session, there's going to be a lot of conversation. And, anything we pass, we can repeal or we can amend. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of conversation and a lot of interest in, making some changes. And these are some Democrats talking to me. They're outraged also.
So what kind of changes from a legislative perspective, what kind of changes would you guys be able to implement that would have an impact on the local city there?
Well, as you know how this addendum was added during the city council meeting, where it was really, I call it, done under the cover of darkness. Mm-hmm. It was real sneaky the way they passed it, whether they admit it or not. Mm-hmm. There was no public notice, no public hearing, and of course we can require that. We in the legislature can pass an amendment to the bill requiring it, but some of my colleagues are interested in putting a lid on the amount. There's some who are interested in capping or putting a lid on it, or even repealing it. Anything we pass and we make a statute, we can repeal it. So it's still in the conversation stage, and it's a work in progress, and no decision has to be made until next February when we go into regular session. But,
well, we'll definitely want to stay in touch with you between now and then as we work toward that time, because I think there is an appetite for some change. I don't think there's any doubt about that. You got a few minutes here? You could talk to us about the next special session coming up?
I'd be glad to, Cliff.
Well, what does it look like is going to happen? The Senate has been pretty staunchly against tax increases. And, we've seen over the last few years a little bit of tension between the executive branch and the legislative branch. This is really the first time we've seen some tension, significant tension between the House and the Senate. Are you guys going to be able to come together behind a plan that balances the budget without raising taxes?
I think so. There's a lot of conversation going on right now. And let me remind you and your listeners that during the regular session, the Senate passed a budget. We passed a general fund budget that the House had sent us, and the governor vetoed it, okay? But the Senate and the House passed a budget during the regular session. When we went into special session a few weeks ago, the Senate again passed a budget, but the House refused to accept it. So the Senate twice has passed a general fund budget. There were several options on the table about how to balance the general fund budget. Let me quickly add, in Montgomery, we cannot print money like they can in Washington.
That's right.
If we have a $1.6 billion revenue coming in for the general fund, we cannot spend any more than that. By law, by our Constitution, we are required to pass a balanced budget. If we have X number of dollars coming in, that's how much we can appropriate to the various agencies. The governor had some tax measures introduced that he wanted to pass to raise revenue. There was a lottery bill on the table. There was a casino bill on the table. There was a Porch Creek Indian casino on the table. Those were our options as far as raising more revenue. The only other option was to cut back on the money going to the various agencies. In other words, living within our means, like you and I as a family member have to do. We live within our means. But and that's what the bills that we passed for the general fund did. It cut back on some of the appropriations going to the various agencies. The big agency that really eats up most of our general fund is Medicaid.
Yeah.
Our budget is right at $1.6 billion. Medicaid requested $815 million.
It's about half of it.
Next fiscal year, that's half of it.
My goodness.
Then you throw in the Department of Corrections, which is our prison system. That's $400 million more. So those two agencies alone are $1.2 billion out of the $1.6 billion budget. Then you have a health department, industrial relations, Department of Human Resources, state troopers. They all come out of what's left. So we are in hard times in the general fund. There's no real growth revenue going into the general fund. So that's what we're wrestling with. But I think at the end of the day, we're going to pass the same budget. The governor will probably veto it, and in my opinion, we will override his veto and pass a budget where we live within our means.